So, Janos, that was a very nice presentation
Thank you.
you did yesterday at the conference. So I was thinking maybe you would be so kind to explain to the students which will be listening to you.
Sure. So yesterday I was talking about how the radical political Islam followers, who are called jihadists in Western discourse, are trying to make inroads in German society. And I was talking about how the Austrian, the German, and the Swiss radical scenes are trying to cooperate, and they show some signs of success. You have to consider that the German-speaking countries have a large immigrant population from the Middle East, North Africa, Central Asia, also the Caucasus. For example, Austria has a Chechen population of 25 to 30,000, which who came in the 1990s mostly due to the wars in the Caucasus.
So those are the people from Ichkeria, right?
Pardon?
Remember at the time of Johar Dudaev, they call it the Republic of Ichkeria.
I don't know.
Yeah?
But probably yes, they are.
They were basically independence fighters of Ichkeria.
Yeah, probably, and also their families and people simply fled. Austria was very receiving during this time, and yeah, it's a very interesting topic I came across when I researched this wider topic. And also in Germany, a large number of Turks are living who came in the 1960s, 70s, and since then, of course, there are second, third generation Turkish speaking ethnic Turkish German people, and but there are also many Syrians who came after 2015, and of course there are many other communities coming from North Africa and other places. They are only smaller in numbers. So the Turks and the Syrians are the largest part of this population in Germany. And to get back to Austria a bit, they also have a very large Muslim population from the former Yugoslavia, so especially Bosnia, and also parts of Kosovo, and in Switzerland, the Kosovans are very many. They got there after the war in Kosovo, mostly. The Swiss were also very receiving. But also in Switzerland there are people with Muslim faith from all over the world. So when we look at this situation, and we have to say that the radical elements, the fringes, are very small. So we don't know how small, because the authorities don't publish consequently numbers, and the numbers which are published are only estimates, and the Germans are the ones who say or publish some numbers. So we have some idea on how the German authorities think these trends are evolving, but other than that, we have very little data to go on. But interestingly, because of the different ethnic and language heritage which these people bring to the German-speaking world, the German language is what the radicals are trying to use to make their presence more felt. So they are pursuing many strategies. So, for example, they are trying to win over Christians, convert them, basically. but they are also trying to open to the younger generation of Muslims who may not be that religious, but who have perceived some negative things in Austrian or German or Swiss society, and they use, for example, social media to do this, but they also sometimes do personal outreaches. The Austrian authorities call some of these, and also the Germans, I think, street davas. They go out and hand out Qurans and try to invite people to seminars where they are talking about how Islam can be a answer to their problems, but also about how German society is discriminating against Muslims. So it's an interesting approach. And of course, we have to know that there are non-violent groups which pursue political Islam, and they are the ones who do these street outreaches. But there are the more radical elements who use social media, but in a more radical fashion, and they also try to recruit followers. And during the rise of the Islamic State group in Iraq and Syria, some of these features became very prominent in the online space. There are two examples which German media picked up on. One is in Austria, Abu Tajma, and the other is in Germany, Abu Wala. These were their chosen names, so these are not their real names. But both of them had organized a mosque community and were very active on social media.
They're Jadid. They're Jadid.
Um,
Are they Jadid?
I don't know what that means. Sorry.
Jadidi, Salafi?
Yes.
They're Jadidi.
Yeah, as far as I know, they were. So, if memory serves me well, Abu Tajma was coming from former Yugoslavia. He grew up, or he was a young child when he got to Austria, and he grew up mostly in Austria, but he went to the Middle East to study religion, and somewhere he got radicalized, and when he returned to Austria, he started to organize his network. And
So Albanian or Bosniak?
I think Bosniak, but I would have to look that up. I'm not really
Interesting.
sure.
Because for us it is something like Central Asian students do not know about this, so it is very
I see.
interesting. Yeah,
Okay.
of course, we don't study much.
And he became famous after it became clear that two teenage girls who were in his network traveled to the Middle East, probably to Iraq or Syria. And it became a big scandal, and it became apparent that also other people who were around his network became radicalized and moved to the Middle East, probably as foreign fighters. And after that, a legal process was started, and Abu Tajma was sentenced to, I don't know, quite a lengthy prison sentence because the Austrian authorities were able to show that he was inciting such activities. And a very similar thing was there with Abu Wala in Germany. I think he was based around Hildesheim, and some of his followers also went to the Middle East. And yeah, there are newer groups which are becoming more active in Germany. For example, in the last few weeks in Hamburg, the group Muslim interactive or interactive Muslims, I would say in English, um, 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 organized protests in which they said that Germany is trying to assimilate Muslims and that a caliphate would answer all the problems which people around there have. And the German authorities are classifying such demonstrations as part of a concentrated effort to raise the profile of such groups, and also they think that this group, Muslim Interactive, is organizationally connected to Hizb ut-Tahrir. And they suspect that there are other groups who have similar links, but right now Muslim Interactive is the most visible of these groups. And if you search on I don't know, YouTube or other video sharing sites, Hamburg and Muslim Interactive, you will probably find quite interesting pictures about how this worked. And it was I don't have the numbers, but it was relatively big for the media as well. So this became national news, not just news in Hamburg. And also, after that, there was an active discussion in German media on what can be allowed, what should not be allowed, how such groups can use freedom of speech to further their own influence. And this is really a never-ending story in Germany, but these demonstrations made this topic very current again. And also, we have to say that there are other types of groups which are historically rather new, but they have interesting approaches and are also trying to use freedom of speech to create an opportunity for themselves. The Austrian authorities wrote about a group which called itself Vereingesicht. So that's in English society of the face, so to say. They were referring to the so-called burqa ban in Austria, and this was also the effect of a long and drawn-out political debate in Austria, but this group took the notion that any face covering or face paint or anything that one does to his or her own outlook is a form of art, and this way it should not be banned. And they use this argumentation to win over followers as well. And also there are the really radical groups who are present in the Middle East, North Africa, and other places. Some of them, which have a regional outlook, don't look at Germany and Austria and Switzerland as a target country, but they very well look at it as a possible territory for winning over followers or trying to move some money, get their finances in order, etc. And there are those groups which are looking at German-speaking countries as possible targets. And since 2009 there were quite a few attempts, and some of them were successful against these countries. So just to name the most well-known, in 2011 there was an Al-Qaeda inspired attack in which two US soldiers were killed in Frankfurt airport. This was, as far as I can tell, a lone attacker, but that he got through was quite shocking back at that time. Also, there is the lesser known case of the Ansbach suicide bombing. This was a bombing in 2016, and the bomber had a homemade bomb which he wanted to bring to the Ansbach Music Festival, but he wasn't let in by security, so he went to a nearby restaurant where he detonated his bomb. It was not that powerful, luckily for the people around, and only the attacker was killed, but and now we can say that this was the first suicide bombing on German soil, which is, one could say, quite a milestone, because that hasn't really happened that often in Europe, luckily. And also there was the Remming attack in 2016 against the Christmas market in Berlin, where 12 people were killed. And there was the Vienna attack, gun attack in November 2020, where 4 people were killed. And if we look at these cases, we can say that the people who conducted these attacks had very different backgrounds. The Vienna gun attacker was very young when he came to Austria. He practically grew up in Austria, and already when he was a teenager, he tried to travel to the Middle East. He became radicalized inside Austria, and when he couldn't travel to the Middle East because of the authorities, he was sent to the de-radicalization program which the Austrians tried to implement, but it didn't work. And it's an ongoing debate if he can be considered a lone attacker or not, because he had a wider group who were pretty much agreeing with him, but how they were instrumentalized or not in carrying out this action is disputed, and I think there is still a trial ongoing about who helped him in what way. But he was able to get a gun, he was able to get ammunition, he had some training, and somehow the Austrian authorities couldn't connect these dots. On the other hand, the Berlin attack in 2016, the attacker came from North Africa, if memory serves me well, and Germany was not his first stop, and also he was able to flee, and he was caught by authorities and killed in a shootout in Italy. So it's also interesting to see how these people can move around in Europe. And also, if we consider the Germans who travel abroad to fight for radical groups, we can say that as far as we know, there have been even suicide bombers among them. For example, some German sources mention the name of Philipp Bergner, who allegedly killed himself in a suicide attack in Mosul. I don't remember the year, but it was under the Islamic States group's aegis. And lately we can see that also the newer groups of Islamic State are trying to become active on German territory. So, for example, Islamic State Khorasan province has been accused of sending and recruiting people in German territory, and in June 2023 7 people were arrested and they were accused by German and Dutch authorities to trying to prepare an attack. In December 2023, German and Austrian authorities gave out a warning that a possible terrorist attack is in the works against churches. So famous churches in Köln, in Germany, and Vienna in Austria were given a higher security priority. Um, and also, three people were arrested at this time. And in March 2024, two Afghan nationals were arrested in Germany, and they were accused of trying to prepare an attack against the Swedish parliament. And also, if we look at the propaganda output of different groups, including the ISKP, but also Islamic State. Back in the day, also Al Qaeda was very interested in increasing foreign language propaganda, including German. We can say that it's a very concentrated effort from these groups to build on the existing networks of sympathizers, of online followers, to increase the lone attacker threat and increase their own support in the German-speaking world. And for the German authorities, it is many times difficult to follow these. They don't have probably that many Arabic speakers or people who can understand Chechen and other smaller languages. And also, we have to say that political Islam's threat is not the only one. There are leftist groups, there are other radical thinking that is going on, to which the authorities have to turn their attention and have resources to cover these threats as well. So it's quite a complex task for the German, Austrian, and Swiss authorities to look at these threats in their complexity. So I think that was more than 50 minutes, but
Well, it doesn't matter. It was 23, but it's very valuable. And Janos, can you please tell what is the situation with the, like, is there any, I would not like to call them the threats, but let's just call situation caused by Islamic Muslim flows in Hungary?
that's a difficult question because the number of Muslims is, as far as I know, quite low, and they are not that prominent. There was one attempted or planned attack in recent years, which is alleged to have been prepared by a convert who became self-radicalized through internet, and he was, I think, 16 or 17 years old. I'm not sure, but this is also an interesting trend in the German-speaking world. That many of the self-radicalized people are really young. Some are in their early teens, and they are creating very small virtual groups through which they are planning attacks and how they want to carry them out. And yeah, I think there was a case in Austria where a 14-year-old, probably, I'm not really sure, but pretty young girl wanted to attack a gay pride parade.
Interesting, a girl,
Yes, I think it was a girl.
and she was Muslim. Or
She was self-radicalized. I'm not. Probably she was a convert. So,
Convert into Islam.
yeah, most people who are into political Islam from German background become converts quite early on and go on a radical path after that.
And do you have any number like in those German speaking countries? Is there any data on the converts who are like, no,
I
yeah?
haven't seen any. No, and that's a pity because I would be very interested in what that number looks like.
Because like there is a big question. Radicalized people, are they like were they naturally born as Muslims? Were they converted or they became radicalized by like making their naturally born religion more radicalized, you know? So this is a big question.
Yeah, and there's always a different answer because there are no two same people, and there are ones who are born into German society. They have Islamic faith in the family, but they are not practicing themselves. But they see discrimination because they are seen as foreign, and there is sometimes a tendency to go back to the roots. And if the circumstances are bad enough, or if the friends and the people who are around are having radical tendencies, it's quite easy to slip into such small groups. And also, online radicalization is a new way to getting to these new thoughts. The propaganda videos, the online preachers, and stuff like that makes it easy. The use of social media, through which younger people are more easily approached by these groups, make this threat really difficult to estimate from the outside.
Well, you're right because like I was thinking about this, like when we are referring to Central Asia, radicalization in like among Central Asian youth is also different, and the way government is dealing with it is different, and the ideological instruments to manage it is different. For example, in Kazakhstan, we do believe that as there are around 75-80% of naturally born Muslims, or let us say from culturally Muslim nations, we say that yeah, we are Muslims naturally, but when it's become over like way too much of being Muslim, they say, oh no, you're not Arab. We have our own roots how to be a Muslim, and like basically for many family it's just limit to bake a special bread on the Thursday or the Fridays, read Quran for the ancestors, which is not a very Muslim tradition actually, as you understand. And that's it, and read Quran for those who passed away. And when it is becoming too much, they said like, are you like having it in Arabic way? Arabic way? Are you like Salafi? Who you are? So the government try to like manage or to keep it under the control. But yeah, we are facing now.
Yeah, and the Germans and Austrians don't have this cultural
Exactly.
control because they are Christians. And how would it look like for the majority Christian or secular state to send imams to religious communities? It doesn't really work that way.
Right. So it's a big question. No, but you're doing very good research actually, and I believe that it's something needed for the society, not only for the European society, but we also do need it.
Yeah.
So
And it's quite interesting that the French have very similar problems. The British have also very similar problems. But as far as I know, there is no comparative approach to look at the experiences of these three major countries and different languages. But also, as far as I can tell, there are very similar tendencies. For example, the French radicals use Belgium as a alternative source. If you remember the Brussels attacks and also the Paris terror attacks, they were moving between the two countries quite easily because they had supporting.
Again, we shouldn't, I think, I don't know, I might be mistaken, but we shouldn't forget the national component. Like
Yes.
Muslims in the German speaking countries are like several nationalities, while Muslims from German speaking countries, they're not necessarily, but most of them are different nationalities. We know, yeah, which one. Muslims from the Spanish or Ibera speaking countries, Spanish and Portugal, are another. So this thing also have to be kept in mind. I think. I don't know.
Sure. And also, there's another interesting political aspect on how the German far right is reacting to these activities of the non-violent political Islam movements and the violent, let's say, jihadist groups. And it's really a spiral. So the far right does something, and there is a reaction. For example, Muslim Interactive makes the famous protest in Hamburg, where they say that the Germans want to assimilate them, and we will see how the German far right will react to that. But it can become very polarizing on a societal level.
But it is so interesting. They say Germans can assimilate them, but like I was communicating with Turks who live in Denmark, in Germany, it seems that they are assimilating Europeans around them. When a Turk is married to, let's say, Danish, German lady, that lady is becoming more Turk than. Just recently, I saw one friend of mine who is, she's from Estonia. I know she's Russian and living in Norway, I think. And now she married to a Turk with her second marriage, and she's very much Turkish. 1 year of marriage. Keeping in mind that her previous husband was a Marine from Mexico. A veteran Marine from Mexico. And so they were like Latin America, living in north of Europe, and now she's very Turkish. Magic.
Yes.
Well,
So, thank you very much for your attention. It was
thank you
quite
so
a long
much
talk.
for your expertise and for your time.